Ladies and gentlemen, what's happening? What's up? What's up? There is a public YouTube video where I actually did delete everything and I put these 3 zones out there. So just check that part out. It was just kind of something I had to do because we got to do a video every day on there. And I wanted to delete a lot of the noise and talk about some next points down. There is a lot of good points actually in that video as well. I do go over how I grabbed this zone from over here, dragging it over. You know, we started from, I didn't actually draw these in, but we started with this base out right here. Why I chose these 2 spots. And then same with down here as well. But let's talk about some zones inside here. Okay, so a lot of these zones were over here. We have the volatility box inside here. There's another one up here. But when we do new zones, kind of new data, I kind of like going off of this data right here. Now we know this spot is going to be one because this just stands out. When things are melting down and really just creating havoc, I know there was an old zone right here. And you can see it back from here. We bounce, we bounce, we bounce. But right here, we can really fine tune it because liquidity drying up, everything happening in this situation. Why did we stop and bounce right here? So on that note, it's going to shift. Probably the numbers are going to shift a little bit. I don't know. Let's see how we interact back here. Typically, we go from the left to the right. This one, we're going to start from right to left because of the circumstance. Now, all we're doing is we're finding it here, double checking back here, where in a bull market, you'll see me grab these zones from right here, kind of just double check as we go forward. So let's focus on that right there. That's going to be a good spot. We know there's one right inside here just because we have this dip right here and these green candles. Again, kind of holding out right in this situation right here. In fact, I'm going to grab, because it looks like some news came out. Now we can grab just this right here. What day was that on? Friday the 7th. Maybe some jobless claims came out. I don't know what the jobless, what comes out on Friday. But look, clearly something happened because we shot up, we shot down, we landed right here. You can clearly see that game of tug of war. Now, if you look just to the left, we clearly found some buyers right there. Still jacking around. Again, kind of jumped up, smaller time frame, jumped up, still had that attention, sold back off. We could probably bring it up to, again, we're working it backwards. So we're going to move that right to here because we're looking for let's at least grab a type 1. If I fudge it just that much, then we have that wick, boom, right there at the type 1. We still encapsulate all this. We have this whole candle staying inside. So we get a better picture of things. And then looking back here, right, so we dropped, we based, tried to, but no. You can see the game of tug of war. Clearly we run out of sellers. We send it all inside here. So let's just focus on these zones. And there's certainly more. We had 1 million up there, and it was getting cluttered. Now, these zones are actually a lot wider than the ones that are up there, driven by the fact that we're looking at these candles right now. Volatility's here. These are bigger moves. I drew these on the daily as well. We could fine-tune this, so we would likely end up... let's see where we're at. We haven't got back here yet. Now, what we could do is probably bring this smaller one up. So we kind of jump up, hit this, right here in this red area, and again right here. But because we encapsulated all of this, all of that, we just grabbed all that data because of the volatility in general. That's kind of why this one is a lot wider. What happens a lot is, like the last time we crashed, we had these giant, if you guys remember the Rona crash, giant zones, but the volatility supports it. Remember, and I don't like when people are like, hey, how wide should my zones be? And it's as wide as the candles are. That's the buyers and sellers. That's what we're looking out for. But then, once things settled down, we kind of entered back into that area. We started fine tuning them, kind of really getting the bulk of it down. So we'll need to keep an eye out for this right here at this zone. And And then kind of same down here. This one's just the wider one. So if you guys did draw this out and you start over and you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna copy right here, and your zone just wasn't 50 points wide on this. And I know what some people are gonna say, like, oh, 50 points wide, that's a lot of money. Those are scalpers, people that trade on much smaller time frames. 50 points, it is a lot of money. That's if you did 50 points a day, that's a living, But like I said, I wanted to just kind of, you know what? Let's just draw inside there. Actually, let's modify it. I know how many of you guys hate a Ukraine zone, but let's do let's go this right here for that. Because I know what I'm going to think later. And again, these are my notes. What I'm going to think later is I drew a random extra line. So to keep it just a separate color, I know what we're going to do. Yellow. Brighter yellow. There we go. So let's focus on that. We'll keep it there for now. The S&P did break. So moving on to the normal stream, right? Let's keep these zones here now. What I do want to note is so we had a red day today, right? Red day, we held right here. This is everything I went over on YouTube, right? So we drew out the second standard deviation line. But one thing I wanted to point out was I want to say it was right there. Was this the last correction? So here's the here's the 10% mark. The S&P hits a correction, sends it. Now, if we have a red day tomorrow from the all-time highs, because right now we're at 9 and 9.7. Let's say tomorrow's red. We get to that 10% mark, and we kind of just fake some people out. We have a blood red day tomorrow. We're at 11. And then the CPI data comes out Wednesday. This might just be a coincidence. Your brain's just going to find patterns that don't need to be there. But are we setting up for one of these? And that's what I talk about. Right now, the trend is certainly your friend. And because I jumped off the train early, I have to wait. And that's why I'm scalping, trying to go long, intraday trading to the downside as long as the trend is already there. So even though I'm short on red days, I have to wait for the trend to establish. So I'm not even really killing it. And I just kind of want to be transparent on this. I have to wait for that green day to get back in short, and that's what I'm doing. So right now, I'm just kind of biding my time because I could try to fight this every day, take big losses, or I could jump in short now, pay more than I ever could have for a put, and then buy the absolute, short the absolute bottom and just get ripped. So I'd rather just be patient and kind of wait for those gears to realign and then jump back on board. As far as the dollar, continued to sell off, but the momentum is slowing down, which is going to be weird. If the dollar bounces and the market, that's just going to be weird. Shout out to everyone who's short the US dollar, Japanese yen. I think only a couple of you are, but that continues to work its way down. I know we talked about putting our stops right up here. If you're comfortable with that, I guess leave them. Personally, I would probably at least be down here. I'd start to kind of move it down a little bit. Right now is kind of where I would be at. We have this one, but we start to break our way down. If you go right here, you're kind of asking for it because that's just, yesterday. So putting it right here is kind of just, that's my extra space I'm giving it. Bitcoin, absolutely breaking. So the one thing we get to delete now is this blue line because it's lower lows. And I got to say, Mara, man, oh man. So my buddy had his calls because he forgot to roll them. Got his shares called away at $15.50. Those are the calls he had. Loses his shares there, and I was like, man, you're so lucky. But he bought again at this zone, and he's currently down. Bitcoin down. Mara after hours gets obliterated. Again, I don't give him financial advice, but the same thing because this is in my account as well. What I'm not going to do is make an emotional decision at the bottom, and this is where you'll get out of the market forever. Because you will make an emotional decision. This is not a decision to bag hold, by the way. You need to understand this. But then that rip your face off rally happens. This thing sends it to 15, 16, 17. Bitcoin back up to 90. And it could cover that ground in just a day or two. It's Bitcoin, So push it back up to 93, no problem. And actually still in a downtrend. So keeping an eye out for that. That's why I haven't sold any calls. I feel like, I looked at AMD, I looked at Mara, I even thought about a 1550 call, but I don't feel comfortable doing it. And like I told you guys last year, even when I told you guys the crash is coming, and it just looks like I'm kind of, at this point, looks like I was just right. I guess we started at the end of February, not March. But I told you guys when the red happens, everyone's geared up, like they're ready to go. Like they got their ponchos on, like it's your first day at Boy Scouts camp or whatever it is. You're excited, and then the pain actually hits, and it's very real. It's like you're going from paper trading to real thing. Like, wait a minute, I didn't know my money was actually going to be down. I thought we were just kind of talking about it. But honestly, this is just where it's at. So I know the growth account as far as like we haven't done anything. We've sold some calls. The only thing we've done is lock in profits. But you see the account balance go down. And if you're really, I don't want to say you shouldn't pay attention to that, but that's also, if you get attached to that all you're doing is just fanning that flame of emotions. That sounded good, didn't it? That sounded real poetic. All right. Anyway, watch now for the volatility here. I think we're gearing up. I think we are gearing up for a move. I know people are going to start talking about capitulation. Every YouTube thumbnail is crash, it's worse, and it's recession, it's tariffs. I think it's actually tariffs. I don't think it's recession. I heard Donald Trump's remarks on that he couldn't rule out a recession. And again, I went over this on the public YouTube video, is that the way that dividend stocks, gold, all that didn't push up. Typically, if recession is the leading excuse, you watch the obvious ones. Really just go for it. And we didn't. So I think it was the tariff talks. Now, again, we're gonna knock these zones out on this one, but I can tell you guys, I'll give you a little hint, it's gonna be right here. We have this base rally. Now, because we're melting down, we're kind of in no man's land. All you're gonna do is go, if you're looking for support, down to the left. Now, here's what we have. We kind of have this. More importantly, we do have this area right here. And actually, yeah, but as I was, ooh, man, this is a tough one even. Is this another Ukraine zone? Do you guys see what I'm seeing? Jump up, we reject. But we just dance around on top of it. Dance around on top of it again. Then we drop, base drop. But look how many times we bounce. So look, so we'll just call it bounce. Bounce, 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 bounce. Bounce out, that has to be where the zone's at. But I was really about to draw it right here, just off of first glance. No, it's gonna be right there. Where's that put us at? Oh man, let's see where that really takes us to. Talk about tech getting worked. Oh, that's not even a crash. Ha, we're good. We got plenty more. I hope you guys just aren't really stressing or really paying attention to what I'm saying. There's some bears in the chat, and I don't want to say don't listen to them at all, right? Whether you're bullish or bearish, I don't care. It's easier to have these talks when we're in a bull market, because being a perma bull, especially when we're talking about the NASDAQ and the S&P, it's a little bit more forgiving. But if you're already red in a position, and then the perma bear, all you picture him in your mind, it's Pick, it's Dom, right? They're kicked back in their desk, they got a cigar, they got the green visor, and they're just thumbing through $100 bills. And you finally think, I'm going to jump on board that. You're going to do it because you're already down, you're tired of being down. It looks like they're winning right now. It's just the nature of the game, and I shout them out because we know they're bearish sometimes, but also they know I'm not single-handedly going after them. What I don't want, and because I did mention Pick and Dom he already over discloses disclaimer everything. I would be at anyone's side. If you say something in the chat and someone else follows you into it, that's not your fault. That's theirs. I'm 100% behind that. Anyway, you guys know where I'm at. Don't be dumb. But what I don't want is people to you make those emotions, and when you make those emotion decisions, it's like an orangutan. You're going from one excuse to the next. As soon as you grab hold of that next branch, then you let go of the old one, and you almost we start looking for fingers to point. Like, I was already down, but now I'm down even more. Must be his fault. It was you from the beginning. Don't make an emotional decision. But if they have a good point, what I always do if I'm down at something, or if I'm down. Even in a bull market, doesn't really matter. Would I buy it right now? Because if the answer is yes, then I'm certainly not selling. That's for sure. Am I adding on? Yeah, maybe not. Depends on how much I had. Oh man, if I would buy 100 shares at this price, but I already have 50, means I'm buying 50 more. If I already have 100, but it blew past my stop, it gapped down. But man, I'd buy 100 shares at this. Well, I already have 100 shares. So what I'm going to do is not sell those 100 shares. You know what I'm saying? In these videos, when we're crashing like this, they are going to be disclaimer heavy, just on my end, just from the coaching side, because this is where emotions. If you've only sat through 1 or 2 of these, you're still a little bit uneasy. When you find out these are every 2 or 3 years, and you're just like, here comes the next one, it's been there, done that kind of thing. Especially when you're talking about the NASDAQ or the S&P. Well, I'm not talking about Tattooed Chef, Peloton. You're in individual stocks. Yeah, it can go down. Is it coming up? They don't really have do they have the track records, which you should be asking yourself. All right, anyway, we'll move and groove. We've done enough disclaiming. Here's 2 standard deviations. That's 4. We'll call 459. Whoo, we're rocking and rolling. I think what I wouldn't be the least bit surprised is tomorrow we're down here, Wednesday we're up here. Okay, or we go up here, everyone thinks we reined it back in, and inflation comes back in and says, oh no, we got one more thing to worry about, and then we're right back down here. When I say the volatility is here, oh, get comfy, because it's happening. Let's deviate real quick. Ooh, the VIX is up, huh? Now we're talking. Fine. I hate talking about volatility, and someone's like, well, the VIX isn't up. Why don't you shut your mouth? Just kidding. But yeah, when I talk about volatility, I don't care about the VIX. When I talk about being oversold, I don't care about the RSI. But I just kind of like when it's just on my side. Like, hey, something feels like it's going on, and I'm not the only one, because institutions are buying up. They're hedging their bets with an expensive contract. As far as the Dow goes, guys, ooh, man. Let's really focus right here. So where are we going? We know I'm going to look at this thing overall. And this is why I like having my cursor set like this. I got a flat line all the way across. Kind of helps me look at multiple planes at the same time. Because right now I'm thinking, is it here or is it here? We kind of had this peak. It was obvious. And then around this peak, we have this candle. We have this little rally-based rally. So is this our type 1 or is this our type 2? So we investigate a little bit more. I'm going to say it's got to be right here. This is where it's at. So we got a lot more information right here and right here. Now, we did get below. We also got above, so I don't really care. We came back in, bounced. More of the explosiveness, more of that attention-seeking is right there. We could leave that. Well, let's just Ukraine zone it up anyway. Because it's not without, notice. Like, hey, something's going on here, Now, I will say, these are not your excuses to buy. This is like, let's keep an eye on things. But when we're crashing and we're melting off with this attitude, volatility is going to be here. It might touch this. I mean, like the slightest pin drop on water, just enough to make that sound effect, a little ding or drop noise. I don't know. And then absolutely rip. But when we're selling off at this magnitude, I personally, like, I put the blue zone up there. Like, hey, we did dance around on top of this. We'll see. Case-by-case basis that day. I'll probably just set an alert there. If I'm looking to buy at the type 1, the buy orders are still down here. But my alerts, we reach that blue zone, I'm going to start sandwiching it. Let's start scooting that alert up. Because why is anyone worried about a type 1 right now? Because a type 2, at this rate, probably 10 minutes away. Who cares how wide that zone is, Let me get to the nightly breakdown. Oh, looks like we have